afternoon, whenever you're listening to this, welcome to the internet's most sophisticated wrestling podcast, discussing the weekly aspects of it all, right here on
The Bald Monkeys Wrestling Podcast.
Happy Sunday morning, and welcome to the Bald Monkeys Wrestling Podcast. And I want to start out with a little bit of an apology. I was re-listening to the podcast for quality purposes, and I heard myself screaming in the last episode quite a few times. And I must say that I felt a little bit bad, and that I had to come on this week and give my solemn oath that I will not scream for at least the next 30 seconds. So, there's that.
Don't apologize for passion. Don't ever apologize for passion.
3, 4.
Yeah, I agree. We all go through that at times. So you can't you can't let it get the best of you, but you can't apologize for it.
I actually was having such a good time last week. So can only hope that you guys stir the passion out of me this week as well. So yeah. Raw. This draft thing. This thing went well, didn't it? This was a really good idea.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. No.
I don't even know if we have to elaborate other than just
well,
no.
I mean, great. Like, so first of all, we made the observation on that SmackDown last week that, well, obviously Raw was going to win the first pick. And so the thing that I was confused about is why we suddenly did this, like, time warp and pretended like the draft on Friday had never happened. Almost, I mean, in certain ways, and by that I mean this. Like, first of all, you had a match between Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair to determine who got the first pick. But that match already happened. It happened on SmackDown. It's not two different drafts. It's one draft, right? But they made it into two drafts. I'm confused. Yeah. And then, like,
it was two nights of drafts. Yeah.
And then
two.
The first, and then I don't know. I don't know. It just bugged me because it's like, okay, if the point is to have a real sports feel, and then we're calling it two nights of drafts, but they separate into two pools to be two separate drafts, that's just a little bit too confusing for its own good. And so at the point where they're on the first round of the second night and they're calling it the first round, it's like, well, it's not really the first round. It's more like how many rounds were in SmackDown? Like 5 or something. So it's like, it's really the 6th round.
But they were different pools, so they were trying to treat them as almost two different drafts, like different draft pools. So draft 1 and then, or I should draft A and draft B. So pool A and pool B, which they didn't even keep the pools consistent because guys ended up in pools and then not in pools and then free agents and then get drafted. And then the whole debacle where they actually listed the entire pool in order of what they were going to get picked the first night. So this whole thing was just a no. The only thing that might come out of it, the only thing that we may get is there a chance that Bray Wyatt shows up on both shows? Is there a chance that Bray Wyatt as Bray Wyatt shows up on SmackDown and as The Fiend shows up on Raw? Because SmackDown doesn't want anything to do with the Firefly Funhouse and doesn't want anything to do with, like, the unrealness of The Fiend. So
the only way I see that happening is with the whole destroying of the Funhouse being like they set the Fiend free. So where it is going to be two different people per se. So if you do see Bray and the Fiend wins the belt, Bray won't walk out with that belt because he doesn't have the belt. The Fiend has the belt.
Well, but I'm confused because You talk about SmackDown not wanting that. Well, then why fucking pick him? That doesn't make any sense. Why pick him?
He's a hot commodity.
But he's only a hot commodity because of that. That's the reason he's the hot commodity.
He made it like
3 minutes.
I promised 30 seconds. That makes no sense. That makes no sense. Unless you're just the Fox executive, like, we really want to put The Fiend on our show so that we can destroy him and destroy all wrestling in the process. Does that make any sense?
No, I don't think they're doing that.
Well, so I don't know that I'm following what you guys are talking. I don't think that Fox is trying to kill The Fiend, because it wouldn't make sense to be like, well, we want The Fiend because he's really hot and that's good ratings, but we will also want you to immediately destroy everything about him because, that's good for ratings too. No, that's not. That's counterintuitive.
Well, no, but it goes back to the fact that they want real sports, and obviously The Fiend isn't real. It's, supernatural.
Again.
So the fact that he's supernatural, let me talk. He goes to Supernatural and he goes over to Raw, so he could be the supernatural version of himself on Raw, but the regular Mr. Rogers version of himself on SmackDown, which unfortunately isn't going to be just Mr. Rogers. They'll probably just bring him back as a regular sports entertainer on SmackDown. So Steven's idea of releasing The Fiend from the Funhouse makes a lot of sense, and that's how they could split him up.
I'm officially done with this conversation. You guys can continue to talk about it. I've put in my 2 cents.
The fact of the matter is that the WWE never should have let SmackDown choose Bray Wyatt and The Fiend. And that's what it comes down to.
Well, they haven't even advertised Bray Wyatt or The Fiend actually doing anything on SmackDown, but once again, he's advertised being on Raw. He's advertised being on Raw again next week. So either they're going to split it to where The Fiend is a whole nother entity, or Bray Wyatt's being pulled back to Raw once he wins the Universal. Unless he wins and then Kane wins and they just swap shows, which I guess they could do.
Well, there's still the trade, right? They could still easily just make a trade right now, another blockbuster
Let's
trade.
talk about that blockbuster trade. Holy cow. I mean, I literally almost fell off my chair when I read what the blockbuster trade was. I couldn't believe it. Wow.
What was it, Chuck? Tell it for us.
Oh, it was Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss for nobody. Future considerations. That's not a blockbuster trade.
You mean it's the number 1 contender to Bayley's title and Alexa Bliss?
Terrible.
Oh my God.
Terrible.
Why am I living in a world where Nikki Cross is the number 1 contender for a belt? Is she really that over? Am I really that, just not into wrestling like other people are?
No, I don't think she's over. I mean, are you? Is anybody sensing that from when we watch? Is the crowd?
I mean,
doesn't pop?
she gets a little pop. The whole tag team stuff was what got her over. And James, I don't think that you're just not into wrestling. I just think you're not into women's wrestling, which doesn't make you a bad person. Just a little.
What? Steven the boss troll.
It's Troll James Day, apparently, here on the podcast, which is going to be so much fun for an hour and a half.
I'm just trying to get that passion out of you.
Oh no! They already got it when they started talking about, we're gonna just destroy everything that the Fiend is for SmackDown. That is enough to get it out of me. That doesn't make any sense.
That's just passion for the Fiend. I need you to have passion for everything, you don't really have passion for women's wrestling. Come on,
equal opportunity. Yes, equal opportunity.
Would disagree with that. I would disagree with my lack of passion for women's wrestling. I think there's plenty of great women's wrestling. And it's been consistent. If you listen throughout this podcast, and everybody will back me up, I don't really get Nikki Cross. She's just always been one of those wrestlers I've had a hard time believing in.
It's the unbelievable factor. Yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause
well, I
Chuck
mean,
brings it up a lot.
I get that. It's just her will to win. She's the little short person. It's like she is nowhere near the Rey Mysterio or the women's division, but it's like they're kind of trying to make her the Rey Mysterio or the women's division. She's a short one that doesn't measure up, but her will to succeed makes her.
How about we start calling her Shorty Cross? That sounds like a good idea. Maybe that'll get her over.
Oh god.
Shorty
Call her the
C.
Leprechaun. I like that one better.
Leprechaun's good. Shorty C. It's Shorty G now. It's not even Shorty Gable anymore. It's Shorty
Yeah.
G.
It's
Okay.
Shorty G, and I can't wait for in Saudi Arabia when he eliminates King Corbin and laughs in his face.
Just remember, you still have to bend the knee because he's still King Corbin. He can beat him all he wants.
King Corbin's a sore loser who wants The Rock's family to apologize for The Rock because he's afraid of them.
Is Shorty G going the way of John Cena? Is he going to come out with like a new album, an album at some point?
You know what, Chuck? That is a spectacular way of saving this angle. Because I'm not really digging the Shorty G thing, but if he came out like Thugonomics Shorty G Gable, oh my gosh, I might take pause and be like, all right, like let's see how this goes.
Well, all the tongue action he was doing on that interview, I was like, okay, are they trying to make him like a pervert or something? Because he goes, let's just shorten it, and he goes, I'm Shorty G, and he started doing all this tongue stuff, and you're just like, what?
I didn't notice the tongue.
I must have missed that too. Yeah.
Yeah, he starts doing all this tongue action after he says he's Shorty G, and it's really odd. It comes off kind of creepy.
It comes off kind of creepy every time you say tongue action.
Tongue action. That's my hashtag for this week.
But yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if he could pull that off though. Like I think Gable's awesome, but don't you sense that if he tried to come out as like Thugonomics, it'd be more of like Kurt Angle making fun of John Cena Thugonomics, not quite like actual John Cena.
I think they need to push him more toward the
not to compare him to
Kurt Angle aggression,
but it just just seems like the way it would come off.
They need to push him toward Kurt Angle's aggression more than they need to push him toward like John Cena, because he's got the background like Angle. He's built kind of like Angle. I mean, just let him run.
He is Kurt Angle's illegitimate son. I think we've figured that out too.
What we're saying, WWE, is can you give Shorty G some milk? He needs to grow up big and strong.
Please let him come out on a milk truck like Angle used to. That would be amazing.
Because all we like to do is just recycle ideas over and over and over again.
That's what wrestling is. The quicker you understand that, the better you'll be.
I can't accept it. Not when I'm coming out with good ideas that they're not using.
And with him being short, he could be 2% milk, or he can be almond milk or something. You can change it a little.
Almond milk.
Since we're dominantly talking about SmackDown for some reason, I have always had an issue with him, but I've officially joined the bandwagon where he is the worst thing on wrestling. Michael Cole is horrible, and I can never hear him say the big dog again and die still annoyed at him for saying the big dog.
I mean, he's got to have something. He likes to say it's boss time, too. It's one of his faves.
We know that's your catchphrase he likes.
And I used to just, you know how much I used to love it every single time he would say vintage Orton. Ugh. Die a little bit on the inside. I don't know. I mean, again, like I said, I actually didn't watch. I didn't actually watch SmackDown, and I didn't actually watch NXT because it was, a long RL week for Big Baby Jimmy. I was able to watch some Raw though, obviously, but again, it was kind of a debacle. You know, you kind of go through it, and there was lots of things that I didn't necessarily like the way they were presented, and one of them is something that you'll like, Captain Chuckles, but at the same time I don't know that I liked it the way that they did it, which was the Viking Raiders versus Ziggler and Rude, only because it just with this specific show and at the point where they're fighting, I'm like, okay, well, obviously the Viking Raiders are going to win. It almost telegraphed the win a little bit too much for me. I don't know. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, but I mean, they could have, because I don't think they drafted Ziggler and Rude at this point.
No.
I mean, they could have kept them on Raw. You know, they didn't have to. They didn't have to move them to SmackDown. You know, I mean, because we all know that Fox and USA are not actually picking who goes to what show. So, like, let's get that
Are you sure
that
about
curtain
that?
out of the way.
Are you sure about that? 'Cause the War Rooms were pretty excited.
Oh, I mean, yeah. I mean, if any one of those people were actually Fox or USA executives, other than the Fox football guy, I mean, I'd be shocked. But no, I mean, they could have kept Rude and Ziggler on Raw. I mean, and it would have been, it would have been a believable, match, and you wouldn't have figured out what the outcome was before it even started. I mean, I know that all of us talked about it, and we kind of thought that, yeah, well, you're kind of showing your hand, WWE. Okay, we know that now the Viking Raiders are probably going to win the Raw tag team titles and everything. But I mean, again, it was a good match, on both sides of it. I think the Viking Raiders they have good personalities. It's funny that, like, when you look at them, they kind of come off as heelish, but in the arenas, they definitely get pop and they're definitely faces. It's kind of odd.
Well, one of the things I wish I could go back and see, because I wasn't really 100% sure about it, was there was a couple times where wrestlers were walking down the ramp and it was saying, like, it would say their name and then it would, like, go to this really big, like, Raw symbol underneath their name. And I only noticed it a couple times, but every single time I noticed it, and I could be crazy, but every single time I noticed it, it was always somebody who got drafted to Raw, and it was always before they got drafted to Raw. So it happened with Charlotte Flair.
Huh.
As she's representing SmackDown, and then she gets drafted to Raw. And then it happened with the Viking Raiders before they get drafted to Raw.
Kind of expected her to come to Raw, though. Like, when they pulled Sasha over to SmackDown, I figured they were going to put her on Raw, because who else on Raw is there going to be to challenge Becky? They already took Lacey Evans. They took, all these other people. Only person they had basically was Nikki Cross, Natalya. No, Natalia's on SmackDown too, right?
Isn't Becky?
Like,
Becky's on Raw.
Yeah, I know Becky is, but they were taking everybody else to SmackDown women-wise. It's like, who are they going to have to even fight with Becky? And then when the opportunity came up, whenever Charlotte lost the SmackDown title, I knew she was coming to Raw. Like, right then, I knew it.
I don't know, man. It was all over the place. And then you had Ricochet versus Shelton Benjamin. It was like, well, that's kind of a lackluster matchup. And you had Black versus
that's
Eric
another
Young.
matchup that you knew who was going to win. I mean, Shelton Benjamin hasn't won a singles match in years on either one of the shows.
But he gets drafted. But he's
Yeah.
actually a draft.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, to be fair, he's still ailing from that bus running him over that Chris threw him under. So many
Beep,
episodes ago. And then Aleister Black versus Eric Young is like, what is this match? Like, it depends on what wrestler we're talking about, but I don't know. There's a right way and a wrong way of booking some of these matches. And my question to Chris yesterday, we were talking, and I was like, I'm confused about SmackDown, because I was reading about it, and I'm like, and so why was Braun Strowman going up against Drew Gulak? And Chris's response to this was, oh, well, we have to introduce Gulak to SmackDown. And I'm thinking, do people not know Gulak that well? I mean, have they never watched a pay-per-view? He's been the Cruiserweight champion for how long? But
that PowerPoint angle was fantastic. I heartily laughed at.
And that's fine. That's fine. But I have a little bit of an issue with the Strowman stuff. I don't know. I mean, just like specifically specifically Strowman. You could do that angle with anybody else.
Yeah, definitely.
So why Braun Strowman? Why somebody that you know is just going to come out and just destroy Drew Gulak? Because they have to make Braun Strowman look strong, at least until he fights Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to,
Yeah,
and it couldn't be a jobber at this point because he's getting ready for his match against Fury. So they had to make him strong. And they were introducing not necessarily him to the universe, just him to SmackDown as, a way to bring him in and give him some screen time just to squat.
Have him face anybody else. I don't know. Why not swap him with Shorty Gable? So have Gulak face Curtis Axel and have Strowman beat Shorty Gable.
Because they're trying to push Shorty Gable. So that would defeat the purpose of pushing Gable to have him squashed by Strowman.
Is it actually pushing if you beat Curtis Axel? Because last time I checked, Curtis Axel's kind of like a negative wrestler at this point.
Former tag team champion, former intercontinental champion. I mean, he's got accolades that they can at least speak to. He's not getting pushed, but at least he's got accolades that you could say, hey, he was good at one time. So I actually agree with you. Like make Axel face Strowman and make Shorty G face Gulak. Those are much better matches.
Yeah, that would be better. I would enjoy that better.
Yeah,
that would give Gulak a strong showing even if he lost, rather than having him against Strowman. I have to ask. I guess I'm just asking Chuck since y'all didn't watch SmackDown.
I watched.
Are you noticing what they're doing with Kofi? I think they're building toward a heel turn because they keep each week bringing it up, somebody different. So we just wanted to check on you, or we wanted to give you this, because you lost your belt the way you did, kind of thing.
I noticed it.
Yeah,
he pauses and he's like,
power
"No, I'm
of
good.
positivity.
I have power and positivity." He's gonna snap, I think, and it might happen at Saudi Arabia if they're in that tag team turmoil and they lose. That could be something, and they lose early. He could snap, and that could be the start of a heel Kofi turn.
Well, if you noticed, he was actually crumbling pancakes in his hand during that interview. If you have a chance, go back and watch the interview in the back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's starting his turn, which if they do it right, it could go over great.
But it's WWE, and we know that they'll probably mess it up somehow.
But heel turn Kofi, is that heel turn against the New Day and everybody, or is that heel turn against everybody except the New Day?
I think everybody. Just everybody. I think it'll start with turning against the New Day and then turning against everybody.
My personal opinion of it, I think
you don't care.
I think they missed their window.
I think they missed the original window, and then they put the belt on Kofi, and they needed to get it off of him to reset back to this window. And depending on how they go about it, it could be great. And now that I'm saying it out loud, I'm thinking about it. They could turn him heel next week, and he could be that final member on Team Flair. A heel Kofi going against all the babyface.
A heel turn for a bad show. So that's what you're wanting.
That's not what I'm wanting, but I see that happening.
So you've just figured out WWE's way of ruining what you think could be a good angle.
Of course.
Yeah. Congratulations, WWE. You've corrupted us in so many ways.
And you know how that match is going to end. The match is going to end with Ric Flair trying to put the figure 4 on somebody, and as soon as he lays down into the 4, the leg drop of doom hits, and Hogan celebrates to end the night.
Are they both cleared to take bumps?
Yes.
I'm not. I'm pretty sure they are, but they mentioned it via satellite radio, whatever conversation he had, that he wants to get into that ring for one more go around with Flair at the end of this match.
Hogan probably is, but I don't know if Flair is. I mean,
He is.
He
Yeah,
is.
I thought he was.
Oi.
Yeah.
Hogan was the one I was worried about because he just had hip surgery.
What doctor cleared that? I want to know that one because he looks like you could throw a toothpick at him and he'd crumble.
The one who's getting a big bag of Saudi Arabian money.
Oh, man.
Another thing I didn't like about the draft was we were building up Eric Rowan, and then we bring back Luke Harper, and then we separate him in the draft. I don't get it.
Well, Harper's a free agent, so he could pop up on SmackDown.
No,
or he could pop up on Raw, or he could pop up in NXT.
They assigned him to SmackDown, or no, they assigned him to Raw.
This idea of free agency is it was a fake. It's a fake out.
Well, originally I thought it was an idea to be able to move some of them to NXT, but no.
No, the only one that did that was Finn Balor, and that was before the draft even came up.
So Harper's on SmackDown. He was signed later on. Rowan's on Raw. He got drafted. So they split them up. I think Harper kind of put himself back in the doghouse from the like his social media. Like he's doing a lot of social media talk, and I got a feeling he put himself back in the doghouse, and that's why they split him up. Now, I do think they're trying to push Rowan, but Rowan on Raw actually doesn't make a lot of sense because I don't even know who he's going to feud with over there unless they're going to replace like put Rollins and Rowan against each other since they can't do Reigns and Rowan now. Like I feel like they're going to push Rowan, but putting him on Raw almost doesn't make sense. But that makes McIntyre a babyface, right? Is that the goal?
True.
So I don't know.
I mean, there's no looking at it. There's really no one. Maybe Rusev.
But Rusev's got Lashley, so I mean everybody's got a pair up right now that Rowan's kind of gonna like. He got this big push, and now he's gonna be on an island and be not used or something, or maybe they're gonna repackage him again. I don't know. I thought they had something here with this new character with Harper in tow, but maybe he stays on SmackDown and maybe he keeps going through that. No one tells me what to do. I got drafted to Raw, but you know what? No one tells me what to do. And he just stays on SmackDown. Like, that would be interesting.
Well, the one thing you're questioning the babyface McIntyre is I don't think that's non-effective. He was kind of a babyface on NXT, and I thought he was a very good character.
Mm-hmm. No, it worked. You just haven't built like. Are you using Rowan to make McIntyre a babyface? Is that the goal? I guess
maybe it could be an idea.
Because he's not there yet, right? He's not going to come back and all of a sudden. Oh, I don't know. Has anybody watched the interview after he got drafted? Because there was a backstage exclusive interview. I'd be interested to see like how he came off in that interview.
I was too busy watching AEW Dark.
I didn't pay attention to it.
I missed Dark this week. I haven't watched it yet.
How many of you guys have watched the Joey Janela Kenny Omega AEW Dark match?
It was okay.
It was better than okay. If it was okay, you didn't watch it. Don't lie to me.
It's worth watching. I'm not lying to you. It was. I don't know if they can keep this pace up long term with how they do their matches though. Like I don't know if this can be an every week in and out kind of ordeal because they kind of go all out, pun intended, on their matches.
I would argue that of the four of us, and I don't know that many people would argue against this, that I'm probably the most pro AEW person on this podcast. I watch it all the time. I'm definitely more, I think, higher on it than most of us are. But I do have a little bit of criticism for them, which is they kind of threw it out there that they were going to very much rotate people in and out of that show. And I've been giving them, it's only been the third show, so I've been giving them a little bit of leeway here, but they need to do this quickly. Because I don't want to see the same people over and over and over and over again. So I feel
like they have though. I mean, other than like Jericho, but I think like I said, I don't like podcasts ago about who is going to win the AEW title. I said he's going to win it because he's the name, he's the face, he's the recognition. I think that's why they keep having him out there. But I mean, I personally have been watching it, every week too. I agree with you that I think you're the biggest AEW proponent on the podcast, but I think they're doing a pretty good job of rotating in new people. I mean, we saw, with the tag team tournament, we're seeing new people every week. Luchasaurus got hurt, and we saw Marco Stunt come in. A couple other people. I think they're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, well, there was a few things for me that need to happen too, and I think they're well on their way of doing this as well, right? So you think about the first episode, you have Sammy Guevara in a match, and then we've seen Jericho in a match, and we've seen Santana and Ortiz in a match, even though it was a little bit of a jobber match this week. It's important that we see Jake Hager in a match. And whether or not they're going to do that, or if they're just going to save that for a pay-per-view, I'm not sure. But
I don't think he has to have a match per se. I mean, he's kind of like that underlying, X factor. And I don't right
the
now.
enforcer per se.
Yeah. I don't think he particularly needs to have a set in stone match with somebody. But go ahead, Chris.
I was going to say, so the reason he won't wrestle yet is because he actually has a fight coming up on the 25th. And basically, he's not allowed to fight in AEW until that match is over. The what is it? Bellator match he has on the 25th. So after that, he's free, I'm sure, to do what he wants in AEW. But he's in the middle of training, essentially. That was the big pop. That how is he even in AEW when he's already getting ready for a Bellator match? So we'll see him in the ring, but not yet.
I think that, I mean, you talk, James, about how you're the one who likes it the most. I don't think it's that any of us don't like it. I've mentioned it before in our text conversations. I think it's way too early to give them over-the-top credit. It's only been, 3 weeks of actual episodes. Give it a couple months. Let them build their base and see if they can hold on to how things are going. Give them a little bit of longevity to anybody before we, agree that they are good or bad.
I mean, and every single time we say that, I say the exact same thing. It's not been 3 weeks. It's been a bunch of pay-per-view events. AEW's been around for a while.
It's been pay-per-view events 3 and 4 months apart, though. The actually episodic stuff, other than their YouTube series that had 9 people total on it, them actually having a TV show and having to create weekly stuff and storylines that hit you every week and bringing in new characters, introducing stuff, establishing stuff. It's been 3 weeks. Other than their core group, it's been 3 weeks.
And it's been a solid 3 weeks, and it's been strong, and they're pushing it to a high level. I think my argument's always going to be, can they continue it? And I think I made the argument, the reason we get frustrated with WWE is, they didn't keep it high level for all these weeks. Every once in a while we get a really stinky show or a show that we criticize. Can AEW do it for the next 20 years? Are we going to have the same conversation 20 years from now? Now, that's a long way to wait for them to see if they can make it or not. Can they do it for a year? Can they keep this pace for a full year? If they could do that, then they're going to be good. But this is a pretty high level pace that they're starting out at. I think that's my concern.
Is it a high level pace though?
I think so. I think some of these these
so.
are these matches are not like jobber matches. These are matches they're building to every week. And Moxley Pac that's a pay-per-view level match. They're putting decent matches out there every single week, and they're putting high intensity matches every week with Philly street fights or whatever's going on, or Darby, going through a barrel or taking a coffin drop off to the side. They're doing high stuff, but every single week, eventually you're going to run out of ideas or you're going to run out of steam.
They've different people though, right?
If they can bring in different people to your point.
So yeah, we're going to run out of healthy people if they keep this pace up with everybody taking these crazy bumps.
And they've beat NXT for 3 weeks in the ratings. Not that means anything, but
they should. Honestly, did anybody think they weren't going to beat NXT in the ratings?
I'll be surprised.
WWE.
Well, the only thing that made me think like, oh, was that I think all of us know how good NXT is, but when you're putting them up against each other, I think that a lot of these wrestling fans might be having the kind of the same mindset as me. Oh, wait, well, I can go back and rewatch this. Okay, well, that's just what I'm going to do. I'm just going to rewatch it later.
But I do the same thing the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Like I go back and rewatch Dynamite. I watch NXT live and I'll watch Dynamite on the replay because they replay it like 34 times, which is great. It's old WCW days where they would just replay Nitro right after Nitro ends. So yeah, I mean it's great that you can watch whenever you want to watch, and that's pretty much everything now with the world we live in as far as watching TV. I think Raw is the only show I've actually watched live in the last couple of weeks. I just keep watching things on Hulu replays or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's good to be able to keep up.
And that's the problem with like just looking at the ratings is like me, I don't watch NXT or AEW live on TV because I got something else going on at that time, but I watch them both, DVR'd and everything. So, I think probably just as many people in reality are watching both shows. They're just not watching them live.
Yeah.
So in reality, it might look like by numbers, it might look like that AEW is quote unquote, as one article I read, crushing WWE in the ratings. But in reality,
Slanted.
I don't think it's true. And I mean, the other thing is you have 3 shows in a week going up against one show. Well, 1.5, let's say.
Yeah, they're looking at initial ratings of live views instead of looking at playbacks and recorded stuff. Because with DVRs and stuff like that, even if people don't stream stuff to playbacks, they record stuff to watch later and they can fast forward commercials and crap. There's a whole aspect that they're not calculating. It's just upfront. Oh, when this is being watched live, this is how many people are watching, and whoop-de-doo. We're also our demographic of being in the South, Wednesday nights, a lot of people are at church or doing family things. People don't watch stuff. So there's a lot of being recorded and rewatched and watched backwards and all kinds of crap that they're not counting.
It's just it's another way for AEW to say they're competing and they're the real deal, which is fine. Whatever legitimacy they can get is great for wrestling. All this is great for wrestling, period. The amount of wrestling we get to watch every week now is ridiculous. There's so much wrestling everywhere right now, between Dark, between NXT, between Raw, between SmackDown, between Dynamite, between TNA coming soon. Man, we like my wife is so mad about how much wrestling I have to watch during the week to stay on top of things.
I agree. I got that. I got put on that shit list this weekend.
Oh, by the way, speaking of, well, not TNA, Impact specifically, Impact has Bound for Glory tonight, I believe. They actually have a pay-per-view tonight, and then their live show starts next Tuesday. So
I'm gonna try to watch that. Like I think I'm with you, Jimmy. Like I'm gonna give it a shot and see if I can keep up with it.
If anything, it's just like my mindset with NXT being live on Wednesdays. It gives these guys exposure that they weren't usually getting.
And there's some decent wrestlers. I mean, Blanchard's the big one over there, right? Like she's basically the biggest wrestler on TNA right now is a female wrestler, and Callahan's the other one, I think. But then you got guys like Tommy Dreamer, some of the old school guys hanging out over there too, like RVDs and Tommy Dreamers. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of product they put together.
Wife beaters like Rick Swan.
Whoa!
Wow.
Those charges were dropped.
Yeah.
Which makes it okay.
Yeah, I mean, hey, to Rick Swan's credit, he is a good wrestler.
He's great. I miss Pac and I miss Swan in the cruiserweight division, which doesn't really exist anymore, but that's okay.
back to what you were saying before, Chris, about AEW keeping it up for a year or so. We don't know how long they'll truly be around, but the other thing is to see who else they're gonna sign from these other promotions that are fed up with the WWE, that are fed up with they're independent, that are fed up with TNA, to see who else that they're going to sign, who else is going to join the AEW bandwagon. I think that's another big thing that keeps me interested, is like, wow, who's gonna leave and then all of a sudden show up here.
Well, I don't know how long it's going to take, but I know that, Mike Bennett had asked for his release the other day. If they sign somebody like Mike Bennett, now I don't know how much longer he has on his contract, but Mike Bennett, given his own creative, is going to be very good.
Do you think he's still a big enough name on AEW? Because let's talk about Spears. Let's talk about Ty Dillinger. Obviously, when he came over to AEW, it was a big deal for a lot of people. But what's going on with him right now? I feel like he's just kind of lost in the mix. Like, he's not, to your earlier point, like they're not mixing the people up enough that you're losing a Spears. He's nowhere. His character's dead after one match, basically.
Yeah, he fought who? He fought Moxley last week, right?
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
week he was
no.
This week he was in the 4-way. So when I say this week, I mean this past one, and then the one before
Right,
that.
right.
He fought Moxley.
But I feel like it was a flat match. Like I don't even think it was a match that was interesting. It had a couple of decent little spots in it, but I think it was just a setup for Moxley and Omega to have a stare down or whatever, right? Wasn't there a stare down going on the ramp, and that's how they got Pac involved, and how we ended up with this tag match this week?
Yeah, well, yeah, but the tag match this week though, I thought it was great because there was so many like story things going on in it, right? I mean, you obviously had, the bad blood between Pac and Hangman Page, and then you had like this kind of they're begrudgingly fighting with each other with Moxley and Pac, and then I like you're even seeing like the storytelling from the standpoint of like different motivations. So Moxley doesn't care. Kenny Omega doesn't care about their records. They're ready to go. They're ready to get DQ'd, to just start beating the hell out of each other. And here comes Pac ripping the bat out of Moxley's hands and saying, "Are you crazy? Like, are you trying to get disqualified? We need to win this the right way," because he's so obsessed with just winning and having like a perfect record.
Yeah, I thought that was one of the best matches of the night on AEW.
I don't care about their records.
I
don't. I don't get it.
Hold on,
I understand that's what they're trying to focus on, but go ahead, Chuck.
Speaking of records, I don't know if anybody saw it, but there was a video. This kid, I don't know how he got out of the crowd, but comes into the ring with like Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks, and like all of a sudden, like Cody Rhodes just like falls down. The kid pins him. MJF is in there like, no, you can't do it. And then like Cody Rhodes gives the kid his back belt to help him.
His weightlifting belt.
And then somebody goes, "Does that count against your win-loss record?" I started cracking up when I saw that.
Yeah, this kid was dressed up to look just like Orange Cassidy, and it was hilarious. And he was playing the character and everything, and MJF played the character just as well, like screaming at the kid, "Don't you dare! Don't you dare!" And then he chased the ref out to the back. So it was a good little spot, and obviously an amazing spot for that kid to be in. But they're mocking it now too. Like, honestly, I don't care about the records. Like, I don't think it's something they should focus on. I agree with you, Jim, that like, yeah, it makes sense for Pac to be so adamant about it and care so much about being undefeated. But I don't necessarily think we need to see everybody's record every time they come out.
But my question
There's
how
no
are they gonna
harm in
use
it, but it's like it's just almost comical. It's almost comical at this point. And to Chuck's point, what are we using it for other than a couple of storylines here and there with Pac? So now Pac's lost, right? But now he could say he's never lost a singles match. So it's almost like, can you build many storylines with this record thing, or is it really just working towards building one person's storyline? Just building Pac's storyline to the point where he's the one that has a clean win-loss record. You can't build multiple people like that. If maybe two, because then you end up having a rubber match at some point where it's like, okay, someone has to lose eventually. I don't think it's a whole roster worth of storylines though.
Yeah, and Chris, thank you for the little in there, but rubber matches. We haven't even touched on really NXT from this past week. And what about what's coming up next Wednesday with that triple threat? I think that's going to be a fantastic match between those three guys.
I
Who
agree.
are
It's
we
going to be an
talking about?
amazing match.
We are talking about Keith Lee, Dominic Dijakovic.
Oh, you got it right. That's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, like, come on, that and like William Regal making it a triple threat for next week. Oh man,
What
I think that is going to
What's
be.
it for? What's it for though?
It's for the title. It's for
American title.
the North American title.
Roddy Strong.
okay, Roderick Strong's in it. Okay. Yeah, again, I didn't
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
read
You didn't
a
know the
little,
third person.
I read a
Sorry.
little bit, but I didn't know that part of it.
I was so just enamored by the fact that Chuck got Dojo mixed
Dijakovic.
last name right.
Jacka, yeah.
There's no way that guy keeps his last name. I'm sorry. There's if Tommaso Ciampa can't be Tommaso Ciampa, there's no way this guy needs to have his full name.
He'll just keep his last name.
Feast your eyes. I hate that too. That's so freaking feed me more. Feast your eyes. Feed me more. It's the same thing. That'll be a great match. And I mean, Roddy's had some good matches here the last couple of weeks and some good promos. Those two, Lee and Doja, have had some amazing matches and done some amazing things. I can't imagine what they're going to do with a third person mixed in there. They're the workhorses of NXT right now. Like Gargano's like nowhere to be found, which I think is great. Ciampa had a little bit of a match just to like get him out of that ring rust out. Cole really hasn't been fighting except for that one match he had for the title against the guy who who was it? Was it Riddle?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was an amazing match with Riddle. Yeah.
So they're spreading it out. Like it's almost funny. Like they're kind of spreading things around on NXT to the point where they're doing, and they've done this. I'm not saying NXT's doing anything new. They're spreading the love around the roster a little bit and having different guys out there in the ring and not focusing on just a few people. So I don't know. Like it's kind of exactly what you're saying, James, that like you want a lot of these wrestling shows to do is spread out the wrestling. Don't have everybody wrestle every week. And I think NXT's doing that perfectly right now.
Yeah, the interesting thing about NXT was when they said that they were going to be like a regularly aired show, like every single week live. What we thought was, well, because some of this is developmental, they absolutely need to swap people around because of that. Because some of like the lower tier people in NXT may not be able to go week on week on week on week and keep it captivating. And so everybody just needs to follow that, you know. AEW, you said that that's what you were going to do. NXT is doing it because I think it's necessary, but it's also working for them. So this can work for you as well, AEW. Now, Raw's not going to do it. SmackDown's not going to do it because they're so obsessed with ratings week to week on that program that they want to push out, you know, you have to see Roman Reigns and Becky Lynch every single week. It's like
twice this week for Roman Reigns.
God, it's like
it's in their contracts, guys. It's in their contracts.
boring.
I keep telling you, it's in their contract.
It's boring.
NXT's the best thing on weekly television right now. NXT is the most well put together show. I don't care if it doesn't have the best storylines or the biggest pop every week. It's the long game, and I think NXT is playing it perfectly. And I think that they are just writing well. They're producing well. They've transitioned to a live show, which I was scared about originally, really well. It's working for me.
They're very consistent, very, very consistent, and it's good.
I would argue both Wednesday shows are like that, though, because quite honestly,
Yeah.
everything that happens on AEW, they love to set up a story for the next week, and then that sets up the story for the next week. I mean, everything flows in AEW right now. So,
and we talked about this a little bit. I have issue with the way they've done their tag teams. I think they have very good tag teams. I don't like the way this tournament has gone, and I don't like how they've showcased their tag teams. I think they could have done a better job of showcasing their very good tag teams.
What makes the tag team thing not work?
Like, you are making the Dark Order this powerhouse, and we haven't seen them in weeks, and I still don't even believe them to be a powerhouse. So I don't think they've built the Dark Order up properly. I think Private Party is actually, I'll go to the other side. Private Party, I think they've done a really good job of building that team up. Lucha Express is another one that they had a chance to really push Luchasaurus and them. He got hurt, unfortunately. I don't buy Stunt as anything other than a bump expert, essentially.
What they lost.
Which was great.
They lost.
And they lost. But the Lucha Brothers, essentially, they try to turn them into a heel this week, and it's like, I'm not sure where they fit into this. Where are they heels? Are they faces? Are they faced heels? It's kind of jumbled everywhere. Best Friends, I think, would have made more sense to push through. SCU, you take out Daniels. There's all these weird storylines going on in the tag division. It's not clear. It's like a big jumbled mess. And I think they're all really good tag teams. I think they just didn't. I think their larger roster of tag teams isn't big enough, so they had to focus on these 8 teams, and they kind of jumbled it. And the storylines are so interwoven that I'm not getting a clear picture of what we're going to come out with at the end of this tournament.
Yeah, I see your point, Tiro. I mean, it definitely feels a little garbled with everything, and
but good wrestlers. Like I keep saying that, but I want to make a point.
Really good wrestlers.
Really good wrestlers. Like I'm my issues with the storyline, not with the wrestler.
Yeah, for as much crap as people have given Marco Stunt, and I was like, dude, what is this? I was like, who is this 16-year-old kid in the ring here? But like when you watch him, like he is just for his size and what he does, like I literally think he's incredible. I mean, he gets the crap beat out of him. He takes the craziest bumps. He can do the craziest moves because he weighs like I don't know, as much as a dollar bill. I mean, it's crazy, but it does seem a little weird. And like my thing is like with SCU, it like what is the tag team combination going to be when they match up, in their second round? Is it going to be Daniels? Is he going to be back in, or, is he out now? What's that going to be? And like, if, Stunt and Jungle Boy won that match, like would Luchasaurus, if he was able, would he have been back in and Stunt out? Like it's all kind of like weird.
I think they had bigger plans for Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy. I think him getting hurt kind of made them scramble and get to this point in the storyline. I think that was a big turning point in this whole tournament. I think they were going to go further.
Yeah.
I think the big push was to have these two underdog teams beat the two favorites, because we were showcasing the favorites too much. I argued this weeks ago that we just kept getting the Lucha Brothers and the Young Bucks over and over and over again in some combination of match every single week, which again,
well, that was
great matches.
That was specifically pay-per-views though.
Yeah, and great
Yeah.
matches, but I think it was a lot of it was to okay, now we can push these two underdogs into winning these matches, and amazing, huge push for both of them. And Luchasaurus got hurt, so I think it made them scramble. I don't think they know what they're going to do with who's going to win this thing at the end. To me, Dark Order makes the most sense right now, or an injured SCU all the way to the end, like one of the two. Like there's got to be a storyline here, and I don't know, I'm just not seeing it.
Yeah. So I have a question. This goes back to, I'm going to put this out to you guys. It goes back to NXT. And speaking of like Keith Lee, have we ever seen
Limitless.
a big guy like himself do moves like he does previously?
I believe the only other person I can kind of think of that does crazy stuff like him is that guy from the Dark Order right now. That's the only person I could really think of.
I mean, he's incredible. Like, I mean, he is a big dude, and the crap that he pulls off is like absolutely ridiculous.
I got one. That guy from
Shoot.
Lucha Underground. What was that guy's name, Chris?
The guy
Mac?
from Lucha.
Was his name Mac?
Oh, Mac. He was the guy who does all the Stone Cold moves.
Yeah, he would do some crazy stuff, man.
Yeah, he was okay, but he's nowhere near the size of Keith Lee. That's like I would say Kevin Owens is another example of a bigger guy who can do some stuff,
Yeah.
but no one the size of Keith Lee. Like he's a big, and we stood next to him backstage and plug, and
He was nice.
he
Good guy.
but he's a good guy, nice guy, but he's a pretty big dude, and it's amazing what the stuff he can pull off. Like he's bigger than Cassius Ohno, he's bigger than Kevin Owens. He's probably, I'm trying to think, is he as big as Dojavec?
Weight wise, I think they're close.
Yeah, he's taller. But man, like, yeah, so when he did the Spanish Fly, it was over for me. I was like, forget it. I was like, dude, that's ridiculous. Like a lot of these moves, it really factors into his partner and his partner working well with him, because it's not just him doing these moves, but just when he does the freaking leapfrog over a wrestler in the ring when they're going rope to rope, that's impressive.
Ivar from the Viking Raiders is pretty good too, but he doesn't do
Not
as much
athletic.
stuff off the ropes as Keith Lee.
Ivar does it, and he's definitely like, okay, it's a big dude doing it. Keith Lee does it.
He's a little choppy.
Yeah, I think Keith Lee does it, and you go, does this guy realize how big he is? Like he's doing this stuff, and like, I would love to see him in a 205 live match just as a joke. Like he should go up against Leo Rush one day just for fun.
Oh,
I just want to see what kind of match they could put together.
Yeah,
but I mean, it just go ahead, James.
I was gonna say, you brought up Ivar. It's almost like, and I don't want this to sound bad because I love Ivar, but Ivar, it almost seems like a parody when he does that type of stuff. Whereas with Keith Lee, you like really believe it. Like Keith Lee, you're like, oh my god, he can just do like anything.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was thinking about it like after one of the first matches I saw with him, and I was like, man, like it just speaks to the athleticism that some of these guys can do compared to like the old school wrestlers. I mean, you would never see, a guy from as big as Keith Lee from the Attitude Era or even before that do anything that he does. I mean, and if I'm wrong, people put it in the comments, tell me someone, bring up a name, do it. But I mean, it's just crazy what some of these guys can do nowadays.
You don't remember that time Mark Henry got to the top rope and did a Spanish Fly? You don't remember that match?
He might have taken Spanish Fly from the top rope, but he didn't do it.
I mean, I remember Brock Lesnar trying some stuff and landing on his head.
Oh man, WrestleMania.
Oh god.
Cringeworthy. Was it a shooting star or 5-star?
It was a shooting star press.
Shooting star.
Oh, he landed
man,
on his
that was
head.
cringeworthy. And then Kurt quick rolled over and was like, "Oh, you okay? We got to continue this match now, man."
Yeah.
And he
My
ends up winning
gosh.
the match and looking like he didn't know where he was.
Oh my gosh.
It's a good point though, man. It's like it's interesting what these guys can do, and I'll even go back to when I first saw Keith Lee in some matches in NXT, and he looked kind of clunky and he looked kind of like didn't have a good rhythm. And it's amazing what a lot of practice at the Performance Center and a lot of time with a couple of different wrestlers can do. And these guys, I mean, man, they do a great job improving their craft. Even Riddle. I remember when Riddle first started and we were like, he's okay. And then he's had some amazing matches recently. And I'll go way back to Velveteen Dream when
Yeah,
I
that
first saw
match.
him at a house show. And he was like, okay, this is kind of weird. I don't get this character. And he stuck with it. He worked on his craft, and he's one of the top wrestlers at NXT. So I think that's a big thing for AEW. Like, do that. Give guys opportunity. Let them work their craft, work their character out. I love that Orange Cassidy's on AEW because I can't wait to see this guy's character like transform into whatever it ends up with. Because it's amazing what he could do with his hands in his pocket, but he can't do that every time. Which I would go now to a nice transition of amazing what people could do with their hands behind their back. Holy crap, Darby Allin. Like,
Impressive, man.
if you people have not seen this, just watch from minute was it 136 or something like that. So or Darby Allin gets his hands taped behind his back in the match against Jericho and continues the rest of the match to wrestle with his arms behind his back. So you would go, oh, well, he probably took like a body slam or ran into the ropes once or something. No, Darby Allin, let's see, ran through the ropes and dove to the outside, ran up to the corner.
Turnbuckle.
Yeah, climbed the turnbuckle to do like a crazy corkscrew thing. Ended up pinning Jericho or trying to pin Jericho like 3 or 4 times. Like, that was the most incredible thing I've ever seen a wrestler do. And with never fell, never like faltered at all. Like, he's been practicing that for months or something. Like, who even thinks of that?
Yeah,
Go
when
on.
he was going to the rope and when he was going to the corner, and I was like, oh, okay, he's gonna like bounce off like the first or second rope or something. And then when he got to the top rope, I was like, get out of here. I mean, the balance you have to have in order to do that. And then you're right, he pulls off that like corkscrew dive, shoulder dive right at Jericho. I mean, it was insane.
I think what they should have done for the finish, because the finish was a little clunky in that match, and I think
Agreed.
they could have just made a slight adjustment, and it could have worked. This is what you do. You have him climb up to that third rope, and you have Hager come out, and Hager, if anything, you have him grab him, if nothing more for, like, honestly, real-time stability. Okay, I've stabilized you, Darby Allin. Now it's your turn to do... I have stalled you for a second, so now we can set up this sequence where you then kick Jake Hager in the head and at the very same time throw yourself into a coffin drop, but you've been stalled enough. But you can't do that again because his arms are behind his back.
You can't do the coffin drop. We talked about this yesterday. You can't do the coffin drop. You break both of his arms.
Yeah, that's the only
No,
issue.
but here's the thing. Let's make the point. Great match, amazing thing for Darby Allin, and we can get into this because we talked about it a little bit yesterday, Jimmy. But why are we having these terrible finishes to great matches? Because that was not a good finish. That was a terrible way to have Darby Allin lose. And here's my point of the podcast where I start yelling. Darby Allin is your underdog in AEW. He is your amazing Cinderella story that this guy is getting more and more pop, more and more momentum. There is no way Darby Allin ever would give up in a match. And you have Darby Allin give up not only by tapping, but by verbally saying, I give up. So Darby Allin, the person that obviously everyone's behind, everyone's rooting for, he's got his arms tied behind his back. I would never give in. I would never give up. And he verbally gives up and loses to a Boston Crab. Not even the walls of Jericho. He gives up to a freaking Boston Crab. Put it in the walls, put it in the real walls, and have him pass out from the pain. Not give up verbally. It's ridiculous. It's annoying, and I hate it because AEW is better than that. They're putting on a better product to have a finish like that. It was garbage.
Wait, now in the Boston Crab, was his back hurting him or was his knee hurting him?
I don't know. Maybe his mouth was verbally freaking giving up. So annoyed.
Yeah. Okay, let me workshop it a little bit then. It's like he should have kicked Jake Hager, and then Jake Hager, he should have then jumped down, and Jericho should have caught him, thrown him against the rope, and then done a Judas effect and just pinned him 1, 2, 3.
I'd rather he get pinned. I'm 100% okay with him getting pinned. Giving up is unforgivable. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. This guy is supposed to be like this edgy character that, like, look at the matches he had with freaking Havoc and the other hardcore and Janela. Like, why would he give up verbally? He would never do that.
They talk all the time too about like, oh, he's got such a heavy pain threshold. He's got such a heavy pain threshold. Like, he just doesn't feel pain the same way that other people do. So yeah, you kind of set yourself up for something that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
They weren't even working the back in the match. Like, were they even working his back in the match at all? Like, it's not even like they built a storyline in the match. It was a terrible finish. And we give WWE crap for all the terrible finishes they have. I'm going to give the same crap to AEW because that was a terrible finish. And you took a really good match and an amazing thing that Darby Allin did and crushed it.
And by the way, AEW, your women's division is horrible.
It is garbage.
I like Riho. I think she's a good wrestler, but like, why not? I don't know. If you want to put on, and this is just a 1 week fix for you. If you want to put on a good match, just have Riho go up against Yuki or something like that, and then that'll be a good match.
Is that the problem? Is all the women's wrestling in AEW bad except for the Japanese and the Chinese wrestlers? Because think about how they started with the women's wrestling division in AEW. It was mostly those imports, right? Like, I'm not taking away from the regular wrestlers they have in there, DDS and what's her name, Priestley or whatever, but and even Nia Rose. But it seems like the more believable, the more seasoned wrestlers are the imports.
I think Nyla Rose is pretty good though. She's pretty solid, and I think that those matches have been pretty solid with her. I think Priestley, I haven't been impressed by her yet. I haven't been impressed by Britt Baker yet.
Britt Baker looked really bad in that match this week. There just nothing meshed well, and they were having like this weird, like, arm wrestling match on the mat for a while there that they just couldn't figure out what needed to get done.
Oh, yeah, so
and
weird.
they never really recovered from that, to be honest.
Yeah,
they tried to. They made it a okay match the rest of the way through, but it was a bad match.
Yeah, the state of their women's division is pretty rough, and they need talent really, really, really bad. So
they're not gonna get it. But they're not going to get it because NXT is hoarding all those women's wrestlers. Because besides Tessa Blanchard and Eva Lise, name another like independent women's wrestler that's out there. Maybe Tennille Dashwood. So there's 3. There's 3 out there that they could maybe get. So the big get for AEW, if they could get it, is if they could figure out how to get Rosemary. If they could pull Rosemary over and let her be her character on AEW, maybe like fold her into the Dark Order or something. Like, that would be incredible.
And then the only other problem is anybody that you have that may be on their way out of WWE, and the question is how quickly do those contracts run up? Because if they're going to play these games with the Usos and Naomi, you might end up running into a situation where both of them migrate over to AEW eventually. But how long before that happens? Because I'm not sure how much longer they have on their contract.
And then they also have like a good 9-month like non-compete. And I can't see WWE letting those three walk. There's no way you let the Usos walk, and also you can't let Naomi go because those would be a huge get for AEW.
Yeah, they need
All
man, they
all
need any
three of them
women.
will be at the top of the card like in a second.
No more Alicia Fox too. I don't know if you guys saw that yesterday, but it looks like she's on her way.
I've seen that for like months now. That
Well,
Alicia Fox
but I
has
mean,
been
like
missing.
it looks like officially because her contract is up. They put her in the alumni section of the website, and yeah, but she was terrible anyway. But just talking about all those.
She'd be a good fit for TNA. I feel like she's. I mean, it should be a good fit for AEW. She's kind of what Maria was to Impact Wrestling there for a while. She could speak on the mic. She could be crazy and she could do a couple things in the ring. I mean, she's pretty athletic. She just doesn't have that
Yeah.
good rhythm and flow in the ring. So I
She
think
would
she'd
be,
be perfectly okay in the other two shows.
She would be better than half of what AEW has on their women's roster.
Yeah, hey, it should be a good get for them. Again, maybe that's what AEW is waiting for. Just going, okay, we know that we'll get some women here and there because they can't hold on to all of them. The only ones that I believe are not going anywhere are the NXT girls. Like that roster, I think is solid, and I don't think they're going anywhere. And obviously, they need some more ring time, and they need to get some more rhythm because not all of them are amazing in the ring, but their characters are developing. I just think it'll work. I think giving them some time on NXT, I think that roster is probably the strongest women's roster we got next to obviously the 4 horsewomen.
Until they move some women up though, because they're going to eventually.
Unfortunately,
they can't hold on to all those women down in NXT because they're struggling across both shows.
Unless
women
you
as
get
well.
your own weekly show of women's wrestling.
Oh God.
Okay, plug it all you want. Plug it all you want.
What's the problem with that?
I just don't know that. Again, we talk about week to week having enough compelling stuff. I just don't know that there's enough women to make that really, really work.
I think that's the real way to get the tag belts legitimate and to put a show together. You can put 2 hours of women's wrestling together.
Why 2 hours? Why not one?
Tag.
Yeah, one.
Okay, fine. 1 hour. Okay, I'll do one. I'll take what I can get. 1 hour is fine. 1 hour is good, and you can put together good matches, good tag team division, week to week episodes. You could still layer in the women on the main show, but why not give them an hour's worth? Like, I hate to say this, but why not take 205 Live and roll into NXT and give that after show hour to the women after SmackDown every week and let them develop something over there, because I think they need it more than 205 Live needs it. I think 205 Live would be perfectly fine if they rolled them into NXT. I think the women need more work right now, especially the tag belts. They need more work than the cruiserweights right now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we've talked at abundance about the women's tag team titles and how they're kind of quote unquote a joke and they never get utilized correctly and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it could work, but
the
would
Warriors are helping it. They just needed someone to go against them.
Yeah. I mean, and we talked about that, about like who are the real quote unquote faces in women's tag team wrestling right now.
No, there's not one.
Yeah.
But that's fine. I mean, that's fine if you're gonna get there. But here's the thing: the Kabuki Warriors are great, and I think we talked about this offline. But it's funny how much we argued that Asuka is not a tag team wrestler, and Jimmy brought this up. This is Jimmy's point. She's a tag team wrestler. Like it's making a lot of sense right now, this tag team, and it's working really well. Where we fought it and we were like, they're both singles wrestlers. It really doesn't make sense, but man, they're looking like a great tag team right now, and it's a great heel tag team that they're turning into. There was one point, and I remember him, James bringing this up, but when Kairi Sane kind of marched across, she does her what do you do, like the pirate march that she does?
Yeah,
and she marched across the ring. And it was like, okay, here she comes marching across the ring, and what'd she do? Poke, poked the opponent right in the eyes. Like, just a great heel move that she had. So yeah, I'm buying it, and this is, Jimmy, you got me, because I think I was one of the biggest ones talking about how Asuka's a singles wrestler and she shouldn't be in a tag team, but you're right, man. This tag team's working.
I think so. I'm sitting here scanning through all these women wrestlers in AEW. Oh my god, there's so many that I'm just like shaking my head at. Like, ugh, no.
You're not a wrestler. Ali, um, Cody Rhodes' wife. I mean, Brandy's
Rhodes.
Brandy's the Maria Kanellis of AEW right now. I mean, it's fine. She could be a good, talker, but not so much a wrestler. She's working on it. Kong, the two Kongs are over there, right? They just don't have a women's division. It needs to be better. But again, they're early yet. They got time. They gotta work through it.
The problem is, if all these people that they have listed on the source that I'm looking at is actually true, then it's just, you just need to cycle people through, because some of these people are pretty good, but they need to have ring time and able to be able to showcase themselves, or they at least have potential. People like Penelope Ford, for instance. Like, I haven't seen her at all. Like, so why is that? Sadie Gibbs, if she is in fact signed, why haven't I seen her? Yuka Sakazaki, why haven't I seen her in forever? I mean, these are all
Yuka.
Yeah,
she's good.
She's a very good wrestler. What about Hikaru Shida? She's very good. Like, why haven't we seen her? So all these people, we haven't even really seen Leva Bates that much, and she's kind of just kind of somewhere in the middle. But like, I don't know, just change it up. You can at least at the very least have some of these people just be working with each other and getting the chemistry down, and then let them have a match. Maybe it's a well-rehearsed match, but who cares? Is it a good match? You have enough people that you can do this cycling thing properly, and they're not doing that. They've got like 75 wrestlers signed to AEW. There's no excuse for not having high quality matches set up for every single week if you're swapping people in and out. Because all you're really talking about is like 4 matches. That's it.
I think the issue is there a concern, do you think, in AEW that if they don't have the Young Bucks, they don't have Omega, they don't have Jericho, they don't have Cody, one of the combination of something there show up on a show, that they're going to get backlash? Like, think about, we're going to be in Charlotte, next month for AEW Dynamite. And what if who I just mentioned isn't on the card at all? We don't see them at all. They don't have a match. None of them.
Well, I don't think that you should.
You have to have someone, right? Okay.
Which is what's fine, but there's enough of them to also rotate through.
But do you think there's a fear that they don't, if they have to, they all have to show up? Because I feel like, has there been a week where one of them wasn't on the show yet? Now, it's only been 3 weeks, but has there been a week yet where one of them wasn't on the show that I just named?
No, I don't think so.
So when are they going to take that leap and go, okay, Jericho, you're not on the show this week. Cody, you're not on the show this week. Take that leap and take one of them off.
Was Kenny Omega on the show? I guess he was. I guess he had a spot, but he wasn't in a wrestling match except for on a dark match.
Right. There's at least a spot for every single one of them.
Yeah.
So they got to take that leap eventually, though.
Yeah,
they got to do
it. They got to break that, and they got to cycle in more women. So
agreed.
This is your issue, AEW. Cycle out some of the elite, and then cycle in some of the women. You've got enough people. It's like, I would say your A-listers right now on AEW is like, you have Jericho, you have Kenny Omega, you have the Young Bucks, you have Moxley, and I'm going to say from like AAA list standpoint, like that's maybe it, and that those are the people you need to be like, okay, well, What happens if we only have one of them wrestle? One of those 4-star people wrestle. I guess you could count Pac too, maybe.
I was gonna say put Pac in there also.
Yeah. So is it okay then to just have one of those people wrestle / groups, because Young Bucks is 2 people, but one of those people wrestle, and then you just focus on your other groups? I think it can still be compelling, because if you say, okay, we're going to have a match like, I don't know, Jericho versus anybody, and then we're going to have a private party match, and then we're going to have a Yuka Sakazaki match, and Hikaru Shida match, and then one other good tag team match that has none of those other people in it. I think that's still a good show.
It's interesting how it's funny just listening to you. It's like, man, what goes through their mind putting together a show? Like, who's going to get on the card tonight, and how are they building storylines? It'd be fun to sit there and just be a fly on the wall with creative and AEW right now, because they're so young in what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's very predictable what WWE does. We often call it pretty much exactly from week to week, or we bring up ideas before they present them. But AEW, we haven't quite gotten to that point yet, because I think we haven't seen the direction they're going, and I think they're still even just kind of spitballing and putting together their creative.
Yeah, and I respect the flow, and I still think the story, a lot of times, the matches that they set up for the next week, they always make sense based on the matches from the previous week. So from that standpoint, I think that flows. I think, to your point, we probably need to get past this tournament, and once we get past this tournament, the storylines for the tag teams will be a little bit more fluid. And you can just worry about, okay. Yeah. I mean, I the one thing I would say is, you talk about not focusing on like Dark Order or whatever.
Dark Order, yeah.
Now, the counter argument to that might be, but I'm not saying that this is a good counter argument, but it would be maybe a counter argument I would understand, because I'm in the same kind of lane a little bit, is that as long as you watch AEW Dark, you're still kind of seeing these people. You're still seeing some of them. They're putting on like 3-hour shows or whatever for the public, not just 2-hour shows that they tape. They've got a bunch of dark matches, and then you can watch those dark matches on YouTube. So that's why you get to. I mean, it's crazy to me, like that Kenny Omega Joey Janela match was pretty crazy, and it was a dark match.
Yeah, it's something they're doing right. I mean, obviously, but the Dark Order thing for me is just, you gave them such a big push in the beginning as one of these dominant tag teams. And how many weeks since we've seen them?
Yeah, it's weird.
This whole tournament's just weird to me. The flow of it's not. I agree with you with the letting other people get showcased on the show, but when you're in the middle of a tag tournament, it's taken like how many months for this tag tournament to get to the semifinals where we're finally at now?
Well,
it feels like it's taken forever.
Interestingly,
2 months about.
Interestingly enough, to pro sports, right? Sometimes a bye week doesn't actually help you. And it's been the same for the Dark Order. They win themselves a bye, and all that means is they're not on television for a while. And so when they finally get on television, if you didn't watch pay-per-views, you're going to be like, well, who the hell is this that, they say is getting a bye and is supposed to be all good? Like, I don't even know who these guys are.
They should get squashed next
I was
match.
just going to say the exact same thing.
Who are they against?
Semifinals. No,
is it Lucha?
It's
Lucha Brothers.
So Luchas versus Dark Order,
Maybe.
and SCU versus
Private Party.
Private Party.
Wow, man, I really don't know who I want to win from Private Party and SCU. I like both of them so much.
I think. Yeah, the SCU injury angle makes you think maybe Private Party's going to get it, or SCU is going to get one more win and then lose it in the finals.
No,
The Dark Order thing is the
it-
wild card right now. It's like I don't even know where to go with them.
it makes me feel like you're gonna have Scorpio Sky and Kazarian win the next match against Private Party barely, and then when it's time to face the Lucha Brothers, you're gonna have Daniels come back and help win against the Lucha Brothers, who were the ones who attacked them.
Or you could have Daniels come back and they lose, and then
Screw
Scorpio
them.
Sky.
You could have Daniels come back and screw the Lucha Brothers out of the Dark Order win or whatever.
But they're not supposed to have anybody out there. It's not to be, the third person's like banned from ringside. That was
No.
the
You're mishearing me. I'm saying if the Lucha Brothers are going against the Dark Order, Daniels just comes out and screws the Lucha Brothers in their match,
So like gets them DQ'd,
or
like,
gets
goes
them
out and hits the
DQ'd,
Dark
or
Order.
or gets it some way that the Dark Order just wins the match over the Lucha Brothers, and then Private Party beats SCU, and then you set up a match between the Lucha Brothers and SCU, and you have a match of Dark Order versus Private Party for the tag tournament or whatever.
You could do that, or it's similar. You can come out and you can get the Dark Order get disqualified because he jumps the Lucha Brothers. Lucha Brothers get to the finals against SCU.
Yeah, either
And
way.
then it's the finals, Lucha Brothers versus SCU. Yeah, there's a couple different angles you can work through that. I still don't care about the Dark Order.
It's still a little bit muddled. Yeah. I think the Dark
Yeah.
Order, they need to wrestle to be cared about. You know what I mean? And I wasn't very high on them when I first watched them, but they can wrestle, so that's not a problem. But if you don't showcase them and you don't make them compelling at all, then they're not compelling and nobody cares.
And then we're gonna have this argument for weeks to come. I'm not buying we are gonna focus on tag team wrestling and we're gonna have better tag team wrestling on AEW. I don't think it's there yet. I think WWE's got the better tag teams. And that noise is why we're going to talk about this for weeks to come. we had an offline ranking.
The problem
of tag teams back to back, and it could go on for weeks. This is a bigger topic. I think that's not a one episode topic.
Yeah.
It's how is tag team wrestling right now? Who's doing a better job showcasing tag team wrestling? I don't know that either show is doing a great job. I think the better tag teams are just built in WWE right now. I think they have potential. I mean, there's some definite. The best tag team in wrestling right now is the Young Bucks, and the Lucha Brothers are not too far off. So they have the better, maybe top tag teams, but the Usos, who are not even on TV right now, are right there also. So it's interesting that if we went down, and we don't have time this week, but it's just interesting to look at all these tag teams and see who's got the better tag team roster, but then who's doing the right thing with that roster.
Yeah. I mean, I think you make a compelling argument. There are a lot of good tag teams in WWE, but if you don't use them WWE, how will we ever know that? Makes a lot of sense. Oh, well. Well, maybe next week we can spar over that a little bit more.
Weeks to come, my friend. Weeks to come of sparring.
Did Captain Chuckles die?
No, I'm still here. I threw in my 2 cents. You guys were on a rant there. I was letting you guys go. I was going to jump in here or there, but I like, no. I like what's going on here. I'm just going to let the two of them go at it. But I agree with you guys on the whole Dark Order thing. They need to show up somewhere. And like they need to have a match on like Dark for people to like know who they are, who aren't, quote unquote, AEW diehards.
Yeah. Well, they do have one. They do have a Dark match on.
Okay.
One, I think it was the first episode of AEW Dark, or it's the. I don't
Is
know.
it the first match? Like that would make total sense. Like, okay, open up Dark with the Dark Order.
Yeah.
Oh.
No. But one of those episodes of AEW Dark definitely has a Dark Order match, so it's on there.
Whoever the two teams that don't get to the finals in the tag team tournament, they should almost have a match between the two of them to then have like the number one contenders for the title.
Yeah. And again, I think the best way of doing it is having Daniels somehow screwed the Lucha Brothers out of their match versus the Dark Order, you have the Lucha Brothers lose so that your two top teams are the Dark Order versus Private Party. My personal opinion is that Private Party should be the one that's pushed to the moon because everybody seems to love them.
Yeah, and doing something like that keeps all the storylines kind of going that they have in play right.
Absolutely.
Just the whole tag team. I'm nervous about what these tag titles are gonna look like after they debuted the women's title.
That women's title's still so bad. Come on, AEW.
Oh,
Pick up
like
your
it's
game.
so good at the world title looks amazing, really cool looking title, and then that women's title, like, did you just like go to the merchandise stand and grab like a toy belt? What is that? It's so
No.
tiny.
They went to the local dump and just picked up a couple of things and threw it together.
Hey,
It almost looks like one of those belts you get at like a Western store. Like,
by the way, AEW, if you want to create a hardcore title variant and you just go to the dump and put it together, I'm all for this.
like a hubcap.
I wanted to have
no.
like I wanted to have
like
like
a strap.
tacks coming out of it and stuff so that you can use it as a weapon. Oh my gosh.
Nice.
Let's go.
The women's title, it's not a title. It's like an oversized belt buckle.
That's it, man. Like you go to like ye old Western store and like you pick up one of these freaking stupid looking what is it called, turquoise belts, and you get a cowboy hat and some boots and a women's title. That's what they picked up. No, that's what it was. Hangman Page must have went and picked it up because he's not doing anything else in AEW.
Two things I was thinking of. I know we're getting down to the end of the podcast today, but one, Survivor Series. It would be awesome if they could do like an NXT women's team versus like a WWE women's team. I think that would be a pretty great match with the women that they have in NXT. That was one. Two, we should do an AEW like State of the Union address, like when it gets to like 90 days for them, being on live TV and everything, just to give like a total, like, yeah, we've given you some time. Like how have you done so far?
Yeah. There's War Games is ahead of Survivor Series. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and I want them so badly to do women's war games in NXT. I think they got the roster to do it, and I think it would be amazing to see like Io Shirai on one side, like weirdly teaming with Baszler and the other goons, and then put together like a Candice LeRae, Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, and Mia Yim or something. Like I don't even care. That's just 8 quick women off the top of my head. But I would love for them to put together a women's war games match after how well they had their opening match on NXT when showcasing the women. I wanted them to get a chance in war games. I think it'd be really cool. Now, I don't think we're going to get that. I think they're building towards a Undisputed Era versus the baby faces, essentially, which it could be like a Velveteen Dream, Ciampa, Gargano, and Riddle, or some combination of anything else. I mean, those are the main guys, but who knows who they're going to put on the other side.
You can have 2 different War Games matches.
Those are long matches, though, man. Ooh, like it'd be tough to have a card with just those 2 matches on it.
Well, they
and
do
else.
2 Royal Rumble matches.
And those are
they're long. They take
exhausting.
a long time. Yeah, they are. So you put one at the front and one at the back. Women's War Games match at the front and men's War Games match at the back. Maybe put one match in between.
I brought up that Undisputed Era versus, the Gargano Velveteen Dream contingent in the text thing like 2 or 3 weeks ago. That would be.
Yeah.
I'm all about that.
I think they're building towards that. My issue with that is if Ciampa's mixed in there anywhere, I don't like it. I don't want Ciampa to go full face. I want Ciampa to still be on the edge of, yeah, you could like him. You could be happy that he's back, but he's still a bad guy. He's still Ciampa. Like the fact that he's kind of leaning more towards what Gargano was when he was playing that weird heel face thing. I don't want Ciampa on that team. Like, put a different fourth person over there.
Finn Balor.
Nah, I totally forgot about Balor. Man,
I mean,
he
you have
muddies things up on
Dream.
NXT.
Yeah, you have Dream, Balor, Gargano, and I mean Riddle.
But do you even need Gargano? Gargano's
Why
not even in the
not?
storyline right now.
Why not,
Like,
though? Why
Yeah,
not, though?
I-
Put Ciampa
So
in this match, and
Well-
then you have it be for like all the belts. All the belts are gonna go over if the baby faces win this match, and then
that would be amazing.
they win, and then Ciampa
You give it-
proceeds to beat the hell out of all of his teammates after they have won, and then he just takes every single belt and just walks out.
Well, no, he would just take Goldie. Because he just wants Goldie back. Like, he doesn't care about the tag belts of the North American title. That's going to be, like, if it's for every belt, it wouldn't make sense because who takes the tag belts?
Yeah.
Like, it's a weird combo DIY. Like, it wouldn't make sense for DIY to reunite, take the tag belts, and then him not get Goldie. This whole storyline works with Ciampa back, with him going after Goldie. He's got to get Goldie and nothing else. And I like the idea of him jumping everybody and then just walking out with the belt he wants. I think that's funny, and I would buy that. But then, who ends up with the tag belts? It'd be a weird combination of two guys. It'd be a mishmash of a tag team.
Yeah, if you had the right players in place that you could do that, that would be a pretty epic match, and definitely
the profits
first
not
thing
being
that
there is the problem.
yeah, definitely the first thing that you ever saw like that in wrestling, where one match was for 3 different titles.
Love that Street Profits promo, by the way, during Raw.
Yeah,
It was one of
Always
the
that's
good.
gonna be a
one of
good match.
the few good things. Like when they just suddenly got serious. I was like, oh yeah, I'm digging that promo.
Who's the partner?
Huh?
I have literally no idea. It's probably just going to be somebody
against
like,
the OC.
yeah,
who
who's the partner?
knows?
Cedric Alexander.
Cedric Alexander, maybe.
Could be
Cedric
Ricochet.
Alexander, Ricochet. Those are like the obvious picks, right? I hope it's not an obvious pick. I hope it's something that's going to be surprising because I keep yelling at all the freaking wrestling in this world to say surprise me. But it seems like it's going to be Ricochet or Cedric Alexander.
John Morrison. Whoa.
How do you
Titus O'Neil.
Oh God. Please no.
Okay.
Kevin Owens.
Question mark?
Question. Wonder. Oh man. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is the time for us to close the doors of the Bald Monkeys Wrestling Podcast Funhouse, so that Seth Rollins can burn it down.
Please bring me a hard hat Bray Wyatt this week, rebuilding the funhouse. That'd be just amazing.
There you
Sorry,
go.
just one.
That's the thing you were looking for. That's the thing. What are you looking for, Chuck?
100%.
What do you think you looking for, Chuck? This next cycle.
Oh man, I'm interested to see where they go with the whole Bray, Fiend, Rollins Funhouse thing. But like I said earlier, I'm really looking forward to that NXT triple threat match this week. I think out of the 4 shows that are going to be on, live, that has the potential and most likely will be the match of the week of all 4 shows.
Lock it up. Lock it up.
He's locking it up. I guess then I'm forced to do my AEW thing, and even though we keep putting these same people on the shows and we've just been criticizing this the whole time, man, Moxley versus Pac looks fun on paper. So let's see what that looks like.
For something. It needs to be for something. Like, they need to put a stipulation on it, or they need to make it for the number 1 contender. Like, I want that storyline to come out and push to another storyline. So
It's like number 1 contender
But you're
after
right.
Full Gear or something like that.
yeah,
That would mean Pac
So
would
the-
win, though. I think.
Probably, which is
Yeah,
fine.
which is
Moxley
fine.
could just lose every week. It's fine.
Oh, yeah, he doesn't care about winning. I mean, that was obvious this past week, which is what I liked about it. I mean, that's the only reason I really like the records in there, because it motivates people in different directions, certain characters. For some characters, it doesn't matter, but for Pac and Moxley, it makes all the sense in the world, because Moxley doesn't care if he wins a match. He just wants to beat the hell out of somebody.
Right. Those are those two storylines you could use records for, but it's like, man, that's it. Like, you can't use that for everything.
True. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, the only other way that I can think that you can do records is if you have some type of, like, every now and then we reset records after, like, I don't know, like quarterly pay-per-views or something like that.
Oh, like they have a draft? Oh.
No, not a draft. I'm saying, like, you have quarterly pay-per-views, and that is where your records are leading to, and then once you've had that pay-per-view, it resets.
It has the feeling of what WWE uses the draft for, like a reset. Like, it just no, just wrestle. Just wrestle with storylines.
Just wrestle really well.
Just wrestle with storylines really well, and then every once in a while, abruptly change storylines because it's wrestling, and we could do that.
Oh, and I want Yuka. I want Yuka Sakazaki on this week's show, please. Thank you.
I second that.
Let's go. All right. Well, as always, however, wherever, whenever you're listening to us, we thank you for listening to us. Make sure to subscribe, like, share with the world, share your comments, tell Chuckles how much you like him, tell Big Baby Jimmy how much you hate him. I just talked about myself in the third person. I feel bad.
We hate you.
Yeah, everybody hates me, so just confirm how much you hate me, and we'll be sure to interact back with you. Thanks, everybody, and we will see you next week.